for entertainment purposes only. And if you want true legal advice, contact your own lawyer.
What happened if those of you, there's so much going on with Johnny Depp's life, and if we don't follow his life, there's nothing to talk about in Radio Law Talk. But he was at one time married to Amber Heard, and they were on a movie together, the film Rum Diary, The Rum Diary. And I've never seen that, but I watched the trailer. It's a very interesting, looks like a very interesting movie, and he meets her on the set. They get together and get married. And the marriage is only a few years, doesn't last very long. And in 2016, she alleges domestic violence. And this nasty divorce ensues, and there's a lot of allegations back and forth. And remember, everyone's innocent until proven guilty. And so Amber Heard goes on the Washington Post and does an op-ed.
I was gonna say it wasn't. She just says back in domestic violence since 2016.
Yeah,
She writes this letter.
Yeah. But anyway, it comes down to this Washington Post op-ed. And again, we here at Radio Law Talk are politically neutral. Everyone's got their argument, and I love it when we argue both sides. So, but what he did is this op-ed. She talks about abuse, and she never mentions Johnny Depp's name, but according to Johnny Depp and their argument, she insinuates it. So I really went in and studied this op-ed finally. I've looked at it before, but just briefly, but I studied the op-ed and not throwing an opinion back and forth, and we're going to get into why he's had a minor victory, but she basically was pretty vague in the way they wrote it. But I could see if you're a Johnny Depp, Amber Heard person, you could insinuate. But for me, I was like, I had no idea who she was talking about. And she was very kind of broad, other than, quote, I had the rare vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse. Now, this is during a time period soon after they're having these issues.
So you'd have to really, and like you said, like when I was reading into this, you really have to follow. There's people out there that follow actresses and actors' lives, and they know like every single news piece or everything that goes on between them, and 90% of it's because they're public people.
Well, the other point is that this is also in the Me Too time, when anybody in Hollywood could say, well, I've seen where men are protected by institutions against women. That is about as generic a statement about against any type of abuse, whether it's sexual or domestic or whatever it is, as that you could make, I would think.
Well, here's the issues that he's bringing up, that he argues. The biggest issue that he argues is he was kicked off, basically. Well, they say he wasn't kicked off, but he's no longer Jack Sparrow in the Pirates of Caribbean.
Yeah, that was one thing that I read into, and I was like, what? I think Jack Sparrow died. Like, to be honest with you, there was enough Pirates of the Caribbean. But if he says, oh, you ruined that career for me, and then she said the same thing. She said, hey, I've lost jobs because of this. But then you look at her resume here, Aquaman, Justice League.
That was after.
That was after the fact, and both of those were huge movies.
Yeah, and the franchise for Johnny Depp, by the way, was a $20 or $25 million per movie ticket for him. I mean, this was huge money.
Yeah, but for her coming across with those allegations will hurt him, and especially in the Me Too movement. And so she comes out against him, and this is hurting him. And he says it's not true. And so, but what happens is, what does he do? They get the divorce. But now he brings a $50 million defamation lawsuit against her, $50 million. And what happens is you pick venue. And as weird as this sounds as lawyers, venues does matter. Let me tell you right now, in Podunk, Diddley Town, wherever, the value of the money that they're going to pay you, Cal's like giving me this look, in a personal injury lawsuit is not what you're going to receive in Los Angeles. It's just not going to happen. Because in Los Angeles or Southern California, $1 million is not technically a lot of money, where in some areas of the country, $50,000 is a lot of money. And so a jury will say, we're going to give you a ton of money. Here's $50,000. Where in Southern California, it's like, well, a house is $1 million. So that's just, So what they choose is Fairfax, Virginia, as the venue, because that's where apparently the Washington Post is based out of.
Right, and the other go off of what you said as far as like the Los Angeles verdict compared to some place in Kansas, the verdicts are going to be obviously different, but there's also going to be you thinking Miss Heard wanted to move it, and that's kind of like her hometown. More people might be in favor of her as opposed to Johnny Depp. There might be some burnt bridges there. There might be some political motivations there, as far as, like you said, like the Me Too movement type thing. And so she was trying to get this case removed
to L.A., to Southern California.
Yeah, to Southern California.
And so anyway, the courts held that she cannot move it to Southern California, and it has to stay in Fairfax, Virginia, due to the fact that all you have to show is one of the people involved in the lawsuit or involved in the situation were within that area, and they're saying, hey, that's where it's based out of, where basically this op-ed came out of.
Now, defamation and slander are typically done in federal court, are they not?
Okay, now let me go through that. Yeah, that's you're right. You can do it in state court too.
I'm just saying that if you want to be sure and get it, I mean, if you're going to pop around venues, it's either got to be either where she was or he was, or it's got to be brought in a federal court, I would think.
Well, no, you can bring it in state court too.
Yep.
But here's let's go over defamation really quick. It's basically slander libel. Slander is it's spoken, libel written. That's what you've always known. That's the ABCs of law. But the general rules, and again, this is general. If a person is liable for defamation, they have to prove that it was a false statement, and then it caused damages, and they somehow published it or told other people. That's the basics. So that's clearly in this case the three things they're going to have to argue that was it false or not that this occurred. And did it cause Johnny Depp damages? And did it get published or other people get told? That's even an argument that you could say no because they never mentioned his name, right?
I'd just like to point out too, like we're touching on a couple other of these defamation lawsuits, and I looked up the defamation definition for California as well. There's actually a third one, and that was that the person had to say it negligently or recklessly.
Negligent meaning they did not know whether it was true.
Well, here's the deal. That's why you're going to differentiate this. It depends if they are an average citizen or if they're a celebrity. If it's a celebrity, it's a higher standard. It's got to show a reckless disregard or malice of the public figure. So it's a higher standard. So, Cal Hunter, the most famous person in the United States, it might, it has to be reckless disregard or malice.
In my mind, it's absolutely true.
Yes, that's exactly right. 3-time Emmy Award nominee, never a winner. Why not?
Why not? Who wouldn't be? Right?
Now, there are
That's
exceptions.
Defamation. That's defamation.
There are
Careful.
exceptions. Truth is an exception, right?
Right.
Also, believe it or not, witness, if you're a witness at trial or a legislative, hearing, that's an exception. You can, if you slandered someone or libeled them, guess what? If it's in the a witness trial or legislative hearing, then that may be an exception.
What about a lawyer in court? Can a lawyer make knowingly false claims against person they're suing or something and be exempt from defamation?
Well, here's the answer: is you can sue under everything. So I don't know that answer. You can sue for Oreo cookies not being thick enough.
No,
I don't know.
I get that.
Well, they make those huge ones now.
But
yeah, that's exactly right. Well, that is a point on that.
So it's all good.
And then you have First Amendment issues, freedom of the press,
Sure.
Cal. That's another issue. So
And
anyway,
speech.
that's what's going on with them. So she's claiming this defamation. I think it's going to be a tough one for Jack Sparrow to say that he was defamated because.
Isn't it defamed?
No,
Yes.
defamated.
Yes,
Defamated.
it is defamed, but defamated
No.
puts an interesting twist on it.
I wanted to say defamated because I think that's an important part. It's my new word, defamated. So whether or not Jack Sparrow was defamated or not depends upon what occurred. And I just don't know that's going to be a tough row to hoe. Even though he's won this first little
battle.
venue issue,
Yeah, little battle,
that's going to be pretty tough to move beyond that. So
Go to the website, radiolawtalk.com. That's radiolawtalk.com.